شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك لبيك اللهم لبيك لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome dear viewers from around the world joining us on our live program, The Call of Abraham. Here on the 13th night of Dhul Hijjah, subhanAllah, the Ayyam al-Tashriq are coming to an end. Not just that, but even our program, The Call of Abraham, is coming to an end. It is the last program, but hopefully it will be the best. We have so much to discuss. We want to focus on a number of different topics. First and foremost, right now the people here are going to the Jamarat and performing the throwing of the stones, which is symbolic for hitting the shaitan. People are making vows, promises, things they're going to change in their life. So we want to look at how we can make a new change in our lives. Not just that, but is it really the end? Have we conquered shaitan and his traps and how he convinces us to commit sin? Or are we continuing this battle even when we go back home? And for those who are at home who didn't make it to the Hajj, as the Prophet ﷺ said, these are the days of eating, drinking, and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we inshallah are going to look at the traps of shaitan, we're going to look at the lessons that we have learned, and inshallah inspirational stories that we may have experienced over the last 5 to 10 days as well. Please also don't forget that our phone lines are open, so you can join us with your comments, with your questions, with your queries live here in the studio, and our Facebook page is also running. You can watch us live. Put a comment underneath the live program and I will try my best to read that out loud. You can address it to any of the speakers and I will try to put it to the relevant speaker. So let's begin our program, let's introduce our guests and we'll get going with our questions. If I can turn to my right, we have with us Dr. Jamaluddin.
Yes.
So many guests, I forgot. Dr. Jamaluddin, I'd like to welcome you to the program. You've been here before and I'd like to begin by saying Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you for forgiving me for that.
No problem.
And we have with us our second guest, Sheikh Wasim Kempson. I'd also like to begin and give you a warm welcome. Assalamu alaikum.
أنا warm salam wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. And our third respected guest, we have the Sheikh Omar. I'd like to welcome you to the program as well. It's a pleasure to have you here. Assalamu alaikum.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Jazakallah khair. Let us begin. Dr. Jamal, if we can begin with yourself, have you experienced over the last few days, especially in the Jamarat, we were talking about this prior to the program, any inspirational stories, things that you have seen that have really moved you in the last few days?
MashaAllah. There's been so many, so I'll choose probably a funny one and also a one that gives a lesson. So I was sitting with one of the ulama, and I'm not going to name his name because he didn't give me permission to tell this story. But anyway, I'm sitting with one of the ulama, and there was a Muslim man that was bringing this large rock to the Jamarat.
Okay.
Like, we're supposed to bring these small little pebbles to throw at the Jamarat, and he's bringing this big giant rock. And so the sheikh goes up to him, he says, yeah, this is not part of the sunnah. And the man looks at him, and he says, I know who you are. So the sheikh, he's on TV a lot, you know, he's very famous and that. He thought maybe he saw him on the Saudi channels, right?
Okay.
So he said, oh, where did you see me at? He said, you're the brother of Shaitan. Subhanallah. So he was trying to stop him from doing something that was not part of the sunnah.
Okay.
So this was a funny story that happened while I was going to the Jamarat. And you see a lot of things that'll happen during the Jamarat. Actually, I want to say congratulations to the Saudi government for actually facilitating this year a lot of people going to the Jamarat, and so far I haven't heard of any kind of accidents or anything that has happened with that. Alhamdulillah.
Yeah.
So they really deserve a round of applause for facilitating that this year. And there was a lot of people there. So, but it's interesting. People come from all different countries, Muslim countries and that, and they're throwing the rocks there. They go through there. And especially today, there was a lot of people reading lots of dua. These are to commemorate getting shaitan out of our life. And then they're reading dua for all of their sins and asking Allah to forgive them. And then also praying for the Muslim brothers and sisters around the world.
Okay.
So it has a lot of importance in that. And especially the last couple days has been very intense.
Right.
because you know, it's a lot of hard work going up and down the mountain throwing the stones. So,
Inshallah.
mashallah.
All right, thank you very much. Sheikh Wasim, we are in the days of Ayam al-Tashriq where people are going to the Jamrat. What does the Jamrat symbolize? What are we doing there? And what should be our mindset when we're throwing those stones?
Bismillah. On the days of Tashriq, it was the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, as you rightly mentioned, to throw stones at the three Jamarat after Salat al-Dhuhr. There's a sound hadith that mentions that the throwing of the stones at the Jamarat, the tawaf around the Kaaba, and the sa'i between the two mountains is li'iqamati dhikrillah, is for the establishment, first and foremost, of the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now there may be elements of our ibadah, of our worship, which we may not necessarily understand the underlying wisdom behind that. Well, I mean, why am I going around the Kaaba 7 times anti-clockwise? Why 7 times between the two mountains? Why, I should raise my hand in this manner saying Allahu Akbar? Ultimately, this shows our submission, which is the most important factor, if you like, in the performing of Hajj, and it is to submit to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to emphasize the tawheed, the oneness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala during these days, so that when you finish the Hajj, that this will remain with you inshallah ta'ala, so that when you continue to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this serves as a reminder for you inshallah ta'ala.
Okay, excellent. Sheikh Omar, you've been to the Jamrat and you've been stoning. Could you also tell us, is this an opportunity for us to really make a change in our lives and to start afresh, to turn a new leaf?
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Like you mentioned, when we're throwing the rocks, the stones, it's symbolizing a war, you can say, with shaitan. So we say Allahu Akbar because we're seeking the strength from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we are attacking shaitan, and we are hoping that this attack has an impact and shaitan won't affect you as much anymore. However, it still requires effort after Hajj. Now that you performed Hajj, and hopefully it's a Hajj mabrur, your sins are washed away and your Hajj is accepted, the real challenge and the real test is not when you're around the brothers and the iman is strong and you just saw the Kaaba and you made dua for hours outside or in Arafah. Rather, the real challenge and the test is when you go back home to the real life, to the real reality. Did your character change? Are you still that patient person that you were during Hajj? Are you still good to people, speaking good words? Are you still remembering Allah? Are you still reading Quran? So what's important for a sign that this Hajj is accepted is how that person changed when he came back, because essentially this is one of the main objectives behind Hajj, that a person comes back and he has more taqwa, stronger iman, a purer heart, and that his habits are changed and his actions and good deeds are also increased when he comes back.
Okay, mashallah. I like the key word change there. I want to focus on that here. Dr. Jamal, I want to look at also, we are throwing stones symbolically, showing our strength against shaitan. When we return back, do we need to have our guard up higher, or can we relax it slightly now that we've done Hajj?
MashaAllah, tabarakallah. That's the ultimate question right there. In my personal experience, like the brother was saying, when we're here and we're around the Muslims and that, we're going through a very hard time. I mean, Hajj is not easy. It takes a lot of effort. And there's been a lot of ease that has been facilitated in it. But still, you're going to put forth some effort for these 5 days.
Sure.
And you guys come together with brotherhood and sisterhood, and you're all working together to complete the rituals that are the part of the Hajj. And this symbol of taking shaitan and getting him out of your life starts here. This is the beginning.
Okay.
Okay? Now, when you go back, say, into a Western environment, you're going to be attacked by shaitan. Because think about it. This is the day that you sat there and you put shaitan at bay.
SubhanAllah.
And now you're going back to an environment that is not all the protections.
SubhanAllah.
So you're going to have more of a guard up, and you're going to have to protect yourself, and you're going to have to remember that he doesn't want to lose you. He wants to get you away from remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the interesting things is that Islam is a religion that is about those who reflect. So with this change, you should go back and you should reflect about all the hardships that you went through this Hajj. And you should look at all the ease that I have back here. And you should take these lessons back to the people that didn't come to Hajj.
Sure.
And share them with them.
Sure.
And in this way, you're helping others go ahead and battle shaitan also.
Excellent.
Mashallah.
Okay. Sheikh Wasim, many of the viewers who are watching, they're not performing the Hajj pilgrimage, and we're talking about change, and everybody has gone through some sacrifice and inshallah learned some lessons. But those who are watching the screens, how can they make change? And what sacrifice have they made over these days that could influence their future?
Yeah. If I may add, before I answer that question,
Sure.
something that Brother Jamaluddin mentioned is that your question was, should the Muslims' guard be up more or not? I think that if one has, inshallah ta'ala, a successful Hajj, that they will have a new realization about worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that when they return, that it is almost an automatic reaction, a natural reaction, that the fact that they have got close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they want to protect themselves from shaitan even more.
Okay.
Because prior to that, maybe they were heedless, maybe they weren't observant of many, many things. And now they've gone through a time or a place or a stage where they were constantly worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now you see the value and the sweetness of worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It has a great value in their lives. So when they return to their homes, there's an automatic a protection. So ultimately you'll put your guard up, wanting to protect your worship and to stay away from the pitfalls of shaitan become much clearer to you, whereas they weren't before.
SubhanAllah.
And these, inshallah ta'ala, are good signs for the person,
Yeah.
that when to perform Hajj in this manner, that they have a greater insight to their worship and the dangers of shaitan.
Okay.
So, coming on to your question, that those who didn't perform the Hajj, hearing small things like this, small insights, what Brother Jamaluddin has mentioned, and myself and Ustad Umar and other people, when they come back from Hajj, they will talk about all these beautiful journeys and stories that they had, that this should somehow bring about some want and desire to, maybe I should go and experience that as well. Maybe I can have that change. And I can honestly say to you, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is my witness, that there are many people that they went to Hajj as one person. This was their character. And they have returned from Hajj and their lives have gone 180 degrees in another direction for the better. So these are the people who are involved in a great many sins, a great many difficulties.
Okay.
And just a few days, it's the last thing I mentioned now, inshallah ta'ala, that Abdullah ibn al-Mubarak, rahimahullah, a very famous of scholars of the past, this was said to me on the day of Arafah.
Okay.
By a dear friend of mine. And he entered upon Sufyan al-Thawri. And Sufyan al-Thawri is a great scholar as well. And he was making dua on the day of Arafah. And he found him and he was crying and shedding so many tears. And he asked him, he said, what makes you cry in such a manner on the day of Arafah? He said, lost is the person who thinks that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot forgive him. This is such a profound statement. If you just think about it, that the person is truly lost if they think that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cannot forgive them. So the doors of tawbah, the doors of returning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are always open. And mashallah, so much more so during the days of Hajj and especially during the days of Arafah. So those who haven't made the Hajj or intending and thinking about it, not sure, make that firm intention and try to go next year, inshallah ta'ala.
All right, excellent. Sheikh Omar, I want to pick up on what Sheikh was saying here, the mountain of Rahmah on the day of Arafah. I went there and I obviously spent some time there. It was almost as if the mountain itself was crying. Because any corner you went to, you'd hear tears, you hear people crying, people making dua. How significant is that day, and what was your experience from that day? And the people were fasting as well. So those away from us, they also had a very emotional day. Can we just talk about that for a second?
As is known, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever fasts on this day, then he gets his sins for the previous year washed away and the year that comes. And this is the great mountain of Arafat. This day is the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed the religion and perfected the religion. And this is the day where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the final verse in Surah Al-Ma'idah. Today I have completed your religion and completed my favor upon you, and I am pleased with Islam as your religion. And as we know, Umar radiallahu anh, he was approached by the Jews, and they said to him, if we were in your place, we would make this day a day of Eid, because this is the day that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala completed the religion. And Umar radiallahu anh confirmed that this is a Eid for us. This is a celebration for us,
SubhanAllah.
and this is a special occasion for us. In terms of dua, Arafah was amazing, probably the best part of the whole trip,
Yeah.
because everyone was preparing for that day. In particular, from Asr to Maghrib. As we know, the best time to do adhkar, between Asr and Maghrib, best time to do dua as well, is before the sunset. So I can hear peace and quiet,
SubhanAllah.
because everyone was finding a small corner. During Hajj, people were doing dhikr and ibadah, but they will indulge in conversations and jokes and speak to other people. But at that particular time, everyone was in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No more communicating and mixing with people. This is the time that I need between me and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I found many people finding quiet spots on top of the mountain, different mountains in corners, different places, and raising their hands and making dua for hours, for so long, for hours, asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala firstly for guidance and to increase the iman and to forgive their sins and anything that they want from this dunya or the akhirah. I had a cousin of mine, he wasn't that practicing,
Okay.
and he got married and for around 6 years, unfortunately, he couldn't have children. So when he made dua in Mecca, he made dua for Allah to grant him a child. He really wanted a child. So that same year, alhamdulillah, his wife became pregnant
Allahu Akbar.
and she gave birth to triplets.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar. So subhanAllah, the dua in this place, in this day, is answered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala frees so many servants on that day, saves them from the punishment on that particular day,
SubhanAllah.
and has mercy on so many people on that day. It is the best day of the year, subhanAllah.
SubhanAllah. And when Allah gives, He gives in abundance.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yes,
Allah is
subhanAllah.
generous. The problem is with us, we do not make as much dua. We sometimes look at what other people have and we desire it. We shouldn't do that. Rather, we should ask the one who gave him. We should ask the same one that gave that particular person the bounties. We should ask from Allah. And it's important to have a habit of making constant dua. Dua when you wake up, dua after reading Quran, dua in your sujood, dua if you're after your salah, your prayers. Wake up in the last third of the night, make dua. Many occasions between the adhan and the iqamah, and get used to having that communication, because dua is ibadah, as the Prophet ﷺ
Sure.
said. If you want to test someone who's close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he's always making dua. Even in small occasions like he's going for a job interview, or he's going to meet a brother. Just before he goes in, he goes, Ya Allah, make this gathering beneficial.
SubhanAllah.
Make me enjoy this time. Make me learn something. Make it a good deed for me. Because this person, he's always talking to Allah, and Allah is looking after him throughout the days and the weeks and the years of his life. SubhanAllah.
Very nice, mashallah. Brother Jamal, before we came on air, you told me a very beautiful story about a lady that walked up the mountain carrying her goods. Very inspirational. Can I ask you to repeat that for the viewers, please?
No problem. You know, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, always look at those that are below you and you'll become grateful. You'll have shukr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Never look at those that are above you, or because you'll always want. Okay? And this is hikmah. There's a wisdom in this. So when we're at Hajj, we see people of different walks of life. We see rich people, we see poor people, we see people from different countries, all here at one spot. We're all wearing 2 pieces of white cloth. But I just happened to see some women that were walking that were from Africa.
Okay.
And it was amazing because they didn't even have a bus. Like we got bused from one place to the other everything was made easy for us. And here they were walking from Arafat to Muzdalifah. From Muzdalifah, they stayed the night, and then they walked to Mina, okay,
SubhanAllah.
and to the Jamarat. So they're doing all of this on foot, just like back when the Sahaba did this. And it was just amazing. It brought tears to my eyes to think that I don't even know if I could have done that myself. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whatever they wish for in their dua, whatever they asked of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant that, because what they went through to go ahead and get here and do their Hajj, it was amazing. And it's very inspirational when we see things like this.
Yeah.
And it's something that especially we should reflect upon these things and thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for what has been given to us in ease. And also, it should open up our heart to mercy for those that don't have so much. And that's the interesting dichotomy that we're dealing with there.
All right.
So,
thank you very much for narrating the
Jazakallah.
story. Sheikh Wasim, I want to now look at the temptations or the traps of shaitan. Now that the stoning is coming to an end, is it important that we actually study, if we can say so, the psychology of shaitan and how he tricks us into these traps?
طيب, so what does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first and foremost tell us about shaitan? Iblis, who from the very beginning, from the creation of Adam alayhi salam, was an adu, was an enemy of Banu Adam, of Adam alayhi salam and his genealogy. And this is something which is well documented, well versed in the Quran. And in many places in the Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the story of Adam alayhi salam and the enmity of shaitan or Iblis towards him.
Okay.
And the intentions of shaitan himself, that I will try to misguide the progeny of Adam, that I will try to do my very utmost to take them away from the haqq, the truth. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has told us in no uncertain terms very clearly that this is what the shaitan wants to do to us. So the more we know, the greater attachment we have to these verses in the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the clearer this enmity will be known to us. And we will know that the temptations, they will come in many forms. Now when Iblis, when he came to Adam alayhi salam, that he made an oath. He swore by Allah that I am from the sincere advisors to you, that if you eat from the tree which he was prohibited to do, that you would become immortal,
Okay.
or you'd become like the angels. Now Adam alayhi salam did not believe that someone would make an oath and then lie. But this is the deception of shaitan, that he will do something that you think that he wouldn't do that. Okay. Likewise, that we in our lives, of course it differs from one person to the next. We all have different weaknesses and strengths. And the better we know ourselves, we know our weaknesses, because it's important to focus on our strengths, but also to be aware of our weaknesses and to ensure that the shaitan doesn't try to enter into our lives and impact us on those weaknesses that we have.
SubhanAllah.
So if it is, let's say for example, delaying of the prayer, so maybe it's a weakness that I have. I make up, small excuses to delay my prayers, or for example, that I'm dealing with people in money issues, and I'm not quite honest. I tell them mostly what's going on, but I don't tell them everything. The shaitan somehow justifies those things to you. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that shaitan is an adu, is an enemy, فَاتَّخِذُوهُ عَدُوًا, that you should take him as an enemy.
SubhanAllah.
You take shaitan as an enemy. So all of those pitfalls and those traps that we know that they are waiting there for us, we have to be aware of them. And Ibn al-Jawzi is a very famous scholar of the past. He wrote a book actually, which talks about the pitfalls and how he tries to deceive people from those whom we would consider the closest people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like the scholars.
Okay.
And how the shaitan would try to make them feel, proud and boastful that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted me this knowledge and that other people don't have that. And that they would even say to themselves, the Prophet ﷺ said, if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants good for a person, يُفَقِّهُ فِي الدِّينِ, that he would give him understanding of the deen. Allah gave me understanding of the deen, with then therefore this is a good sign for me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves me, and this is a guarantee. And then he begins to look down upon people. So this particular book deals with this topic. As for the very poor person, that that the person can then fall into despair.
Okay.
That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forsaken me and I don't have anything. So you can see every level of life that the shaitan will try to have an impact and deceive them and cheat them and fall into traps. That ultimately he wants them to be taken away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And with the story of the alim, the scholar, that they will be from the first people to be thrown into the hellfire on the day of judgment.
Okay.
Because that they will have taken this knowledge not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but so the people would say that I am a person of knowledge, that it wasn't done for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So nobody is saved from the plots and the traps of shaitan, and it is extremely important for us to not only know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants from us in terms of worship, but also to know the opposite of that, the pitfalls and the dangers of that. So just as we know what tawheed, we know what shirk is.
Okay.
And just as we know what sunnah is, we know what bid'ah is, so that we don't fall into it. And Al-Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman radiallahu anhu, he said that the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to ask him about good, so that they could conduct it and they could fulfill it. However, there were times when I used to ask about shar, evil, so that I would not fall into it.
Okay.
So it's very important we have this balance in understanding this. Wallahu a'lam.
Excellent. Jazakallah khair. Thank you very much. Sheikh Omar, looking at what the Sheikh has just said, when we look at the plots and the plans of Shaitan, we can see that his number one or his main objective is to drive a person away from Islam, to take him into kufr or take him into hellfire. Would you agree with that? And how does he take a person into kufr?
Absolutely, I agree with it. And like the Sheikh said, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands us to know that he's an enemy and to take him as an enemy. So an enemy, you would prepare to deal with an enemy, and you will prepare to be cautious from an enemy, and you will take the means so that you can protect yourself from this enemy. And similar with shaitan. Obviously the first thing someone should do to protect himself from an enemy is to seek the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In many occasions ask Allah to help, because He is the all-powerful and He's able to do all things. And if you are close to Allah and He is protecting you, then no one can harm you. Even if mankind and all of jinn try to attack you and harm you, they would not be able to harm you except with the will and the permission of Allah. So being close to Allah and seeking protection by using the words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Quran and the adhkar, this is what will protect a person from shaitan.
Okay.
In terms of how the shaitan will try to make someone commit kufr, he does it in stages.
Okay.
He might try in the beginning to make a person commit shirk. But if he's strong enough, he's not going to fall for it. And this is why knowledge is important. Because when someone has knowledge of the religion, he knows what is shirk, what is bid'ah, what's major sin, what is a sin, etc. So we start with shirk, and if it doesn't work, he will try to make him commit a major sin. If that doesn't work, he will try to make him commit a minor sin. And he will try to make that person commit the minor sins in a habit. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, beware of committing the minor sins, because indeed it can destroy a person. Someone can accumulate so many minor sins to the point where his heart will be covered with black dots.
Okay, Sheikh Umar, if I can ask you to hold your thought. We have a phone call. Abdul Aziz, if I understand correctly, from Nigeria. Assalamu alaikum. Drop. Abdul Aziz, please do pick up the phone and call us back, inshallah. I want to hear what you have to say. Yeah, so please do call us back, inshallah. Sheikh Umar, sorry, if I can ask you to continue, please.
So we were saying that the person will commit minor sins in habits. And then perhaps he would, if he can't get him to commit the minor sins, then he will try to make him waste time. When someone wastes time, usually he might fall into sins. And when someone wastes time, then he's not going to do and perform the good deeds. But if he still can't do that, he won't give up. He will even go to his good deeds. And if he has an option to perform one better good deed and one normal good deed, he will try to make him to do the lesser great or the lesser good deed.
Okay.
And this is what shaitan will keep doing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, la tattabi'u khutuwat ash-shaytan. O you who believe, do not follow the footsteps of shaitan. This is another method he uses. Footsteps. Easy steps. Things that are not seen as clear black and white. The Prophet ﷺ, he said, فَمَنِ اتَّقَى الشُّبَهَاتِ فَقَدْ اسْتَبْرَأَ لِدِينِهِ وَلِعَرْضِهِ. And he starts the hadith which says, إِنَّ الْحَرَامَ بَيَّنْ وَإِنَّ الْحَلَالَ بَيَّنْ وَبَيْنَهُمَا أُمُورًا مُتَشَابِهَاتٍ. Halal is clear and haram is clear, but between them are affairs and matters that are doubtful and not clear. But the Prophet ﷺ said, be cautious and fearful of the doubtful matters, because in the end it can make a person fall into the haram.
Okay.
And if the person fears it, he will protect his religion and protect also his personal honor. So shaitan will get a person to follow these footsteps, easy paths, until he commits and ends up performing the bad deeds and the sins. And like Sheikh Wasim mentioned, he uses two main things to tempt and to deceive the son of Adam.
Okay.
To make him think or believe that he can be something that he's not. In the occasion of Adam alayhi salam, that he can be like the angel. and to make him forget about the akhirah. To tell him that you can live a long life or you will live forever. And you will see these two things are very common, in particular to the youth of today. To many people who commit sins, these are the main two things. They will say, I'm still young. Live your life. You only live life once. Let me enjoy myself now, have fun. When I'm older, I'll become religious, I'll repent, I'll go on Hajj, and then I'll become a better Muslim. This is what many people say. This is the main trick of shaitan.
Okay.
And similarly, he will make them try to imitate people who they can't be like rich people, famous celebrities. Do this sin so you can be like so-and-so.
SubhanAllah.
And this is what happens with the youth. They dress and talk and do things that are haram, but they justify it because it's part of the culture of today.
Okay.
It's part of feeling like you fit in and you feel cool or you feel respected and loved by others. This is also one of the main methods of shaitan, to make him act like people who they can't be like so that they can commit sins.
Okay, thank you very much. Very in-depth answer there on how shaitan comes with his plots and his plans. Dear viewers, I'd like to remind you once again about our phone lines. Please do pick up your phones and do call us. Abdul Aziz from Nigeria. I want to really hear what you had to say. Pick up your phone, call us back and join us on the program. Also, don't forget you are live. We can take your comments on our Facebook page as well. I want to read a few of those and then we'll continue with our questions. We have Brother Amran Hussein who comments, says, MashaAllah, fantastic program. Thank you for that comment. We also have Camila Samdan, and she says, I watched a live coverage of the Jamarat and it looked very spacious compared to the time I performed the Hajj. Okay. And we have Canaria. She says, please make dua for the people of Burma. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to show mercy on the people of Burma. We will talk about that inshallah ta'ala in due course as well. Ahlam Hamdan says, please tell us about Tawaf al-Ifada. When do pilgrims perform that? We've got a 50 question there. And Camila, once again, she gives another comment. She says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from the footsteps of shaitan. Ameen. Keep writing your comments and I'll try to read those out as well. Is the phone call back? Assalamu alaikum, Abdul Aziz. Welcome back.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Wa alaikum salam. Give us your question or your comment, please.
Thank you, brother. Yeah, my question is this to go to the Sheikh.
Go ahead.
Yeah, it's, he was talking, the one Iblis came and met Adam alayhi salam, he promised him immortality.
Keep going.
Yeah, so what the question is, what did Adam know about death?
Okay. Is there part two to that question?
No, that is it. So I want to know, if at that time, was there something like death?
Okay, inshallah, Abdul Aziz, I will definitely pose the question. Do you have any other question or comment?
No. The comment is that Huda is a wonderful station. Yeah, I really love your program. I've been following from the inception of this Hajj program. May Allah bless all of you all.
Thank you very much, Abdul Aziz. We appreciate your phone call, and I will pose your question as well. We have a massive following in Nigeria, and we love Nigeria very much, so please do keep calling us. Question. I don't know who to pose the question to. Any volunteers? The question is that you were talking about the mortality. Adam alayhi salam wanted mortality. So was he aware of the concept of death because he wanted mortality?
طيب. So the Iblis, he came to Adam alayhi salam and he said that if you eat from this tree, that you would be imma malakaini aw min al-khalidin, that you would either be like the angels,
Okay.
who, as we know, that with angels they don't taste death, they live for forever, as it were, or that you would be immortal,
Okay.
immortalized. Okay, so we would understand, wallahu a'lam, from this that this was something extra. This was something extra or something added to what Adam alayhi salam understood.
Okay.
This is like an indirect kind of understanding. If somebody says, if you do this, then you will get that. Okay, so you understand that, well, he was upon something else before. So the fact that he was promised immortality, we would understand that he understood that he was immortal. rather mortal, and that he would have a lifespan.
Okay.
We also know there was a hadith, as far as I'm aware, that he gave part of his lifespan to Dawood alayhi salam.
So he had a lifespan.
Yes, he had a lifespan.
Okay.
And he gave part of his lifespan to Dawood alayhi salam, which would again further indicate that Adam alayhi salam he knew that he would eventually die, and that he would not live forever. So did Adam alayhi salam know about death? Yes, he understood what death was, alayhi salam, and the fact that these evidences would indicate that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is must.
Okay, mashallah, very interesting questions coming through. Keep those questions coming, inshallah, and we will address them to the speakers as you request. Where were we, Brother Jamal? What was our question? What were we discussing before the interesting question? Talking about the traps of shaitan.
No.
We talked about kufr, we talked about the different steps and how shaitan convinces us to start with the small things and end up doing a big crime. Also, when Sheikh was talking about the concept of pride, I saw you nod your head and you took heart to that.
No.
What would you comment on the concept of pride and how shaitan uses pride to mess up your sincerity?
Interesting, because it actually reminds me of like when we need to understand that Iblis comes from the creation of the jinn.
Okay.
Okay, and he used to actually be mu'minun. He used to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he used to be devoted to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Okay.
But he went astray after he was brought up with the angels, because he looked at himself better than the creation of Adam.
Right.
And so when Adam was created before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave him life, okay, the angels saw this shell of Adam that was empty, and they were afraid to go near it. But Iblis was not. He said, why are you afraid of this? It's da'if, it's weak.
All right.
So he went in and out of all of the orifices of Adam, through his nose, through his eyes, through his mouth, through his ears, and through his private body. And it's interesting because this concept, because to this day, this is how shaitan leads most of human beings astray.
Okay.
Through the faculties of the sight, through the nose, through the mouth, through the ears, the tongue, the pride, I'm better than you. This is how he gets us away
Okay.
from remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
SubhanAllah.
And so it's interesting because there's an ayat in the Quran where it actually tells what shaitan does to human beings. He says, I'm going to instill in Adam, in the children of Adam, I'm going to create false desires in them. And what does he do with these false desires? He reinforces them with doubt, shak.
SubhanAllah.
Okay? So, to the point where they're going to change the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It says, in fact, they're going to slit the ears of camels. And it's interesting because, like, if we look at this from, like, a simple thing, like women, for example. He'll come to women and say, you're ugly.
Okay.
Right? He'll come to them, even if they're not ugly. So then what do? They want to change what Allah created perfect. They want to get their nose changed. They want to change parts of them. He instills these false desires in them, and they create this havoc. And in this way, they commit shirk. It's a form of shirk. It's very interesting how he creates this. And we have to understand that shaitan is an alam. He's an alam of human beings.
Okay.
He knows them inside and out, like physically. So we need to understand this. But Allah has given us the playbook. He's given us Quran. He's given us how shaitan will come near you, how he will send his troops near you.
The solutions.
The solutions.
Okay.
It would be like going to the Super Bowl, right? And you got like the Bears and the Broncos playing. And then the Bears are winning and they're like, yeah, we're winning because we got the whole Bronco playbook right here.
Okay.
Okay? It's the same thing. In Islam, we have the playbook. We have the beginning, we have the end, and we have the whole solution right there in the Quran.
SubhanAllah.
MashaAllah.
You can tell he's American. We're bringing the American football.
Sorry, I had to put some football in
No,
there.
that's okay. But I don't think the ever final ever happened. Actually, did it?
No,
No,
that game
how
never
it-
happened. MashaAllah.
I said that's our equivalent of Arsenal versus Manchester United.
Yeah, there you go. MashaAllah.
The Bears
Sheikh-
not so good actually of late.
Sorry?
The Bears not so good of late.
Yeah.
Sheikh, you mentioned something earlier. We talked about, Sheikh talked about the dangers of kufr and how Iblis brings people to kufr slowly.
No.
But you touched upon sunnah and the opposite of that being innovations.
Yes.
What are innovations?
So, it's an interesting question because there's a number of different definitions actually to what actually a bid'ah is. So if we can first understand what sunnah is, and then it gives us a further insight to what bid'ah
Sure.
is. So sunnah is, if you like, that what the Prophet ﷺ came to teach us, to deliver the message to us in how to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in how to submit ourselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, everything that the Prophet ﷺ gave to us, whether it was a statement, okay, an action, or kind of an approval,
Okay.
this would all be part of his sunnah from this effect. Now, a bid'ah is something that the Prophet ﷺ warned us of. So, for example, the Prophet said, إِيَّاكُمْ وَمُحْدَثَاتُ الْأُمُورِ, be aware of those newly invented matters. And another hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever invents something that which we have not commanded with, then it will be rejected. So what are these newly invented matters? It is essentially in that how we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right.
And we worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that we were taught. I.e. that we don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala like we don't perform Hajj how we like. We don't perform Salah how we like. We don't make remembrance of dhikr of however we like, you know. We do it how we were taught. So these are fixed matters for us. So if a person comes along afterwards and decides that they're going to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a manner that was not taught to us by the Prophet ﷺ, this we can call a bid'ah or a newly invented matter. And furthermore, the Prophet ﷺ told us that every newly invented matter is a form of misguidance, and every misguidance leads to the fire. So there's a very, very serious issue. The Prophet ﷺ further emphasized, and he said to the companions that after I have passed away, okay, you may see some differences amongst the people. So there's a very, very important for you to hold firm to the book of Allah and my sunnah,
Okay.
my teachings. Okay, this will enable us to remain from those people whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is pleased with. If we deviate away from that, then the person will fall into, as we said, those newly invented matters which are rejected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Either these actions are not accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not sufficient that a person would have a good intention, for example, that my niyyah, my intention is pure, it is good, and it is for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your intention does not validate an action.
Okay.
Your intention, of course, must be pure, and that is between you and Allah Jalla wa Ala. But the action as well must be validated. It must be correct. So, for example, I can't say I got a good intention, and in my area there's lots of drunks, there's lots of alcoholics. So therefore I'm going to sell alcohol to these people, and I'm going to make loads of money, and then I'm going to send this money to all the weak Muslims around the world. Okay, this is a good intention. However, the action is not valid.
Right.
You can't with a good intention validate what is not permissible. Okay, so it's very important that a person they're aware that we can be, again, it's one of the tricks of the shaitan, that you just fall into, but I've got a good intention, I'm okay. So the intention is just part of the deal, or part of the kind of formula or the setup when doing good actions. So that what falls in line with the teachings of the Prophet ﷺ is extremely important for us to adhere to and to follow.
Okay.
And those newly things that popped up and just weren't there before, that we stay away from them.
Right.
So that way we can remain with a pure religion, alhamdulillah.
Sure, excellent. Sheikh Omar, I want to expand on that question a little bit further. Many people, when we're talking about innovations, they will understand it outside of acts of worship, and the Sheikh made it very clear that it's inside of worship. I would like for you to touch on it a little bit more, because unfortunately, misconception, people think that we are not even allowed to innovate even worldly matters. And here we're sitting here on TV using media and so on and so forth. Can you clarify that misconception about innovations, please?
There's two types of ibadat. There's tawqifi, which means things that are fixed in our religion. These things that are fixed in our religion, it's revealed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the teaching of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and no one, even the scholars, can have a say in how it is performed, or the tashri' side, meaning the way it was revealed and the commandment in itself. So for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, aqimus salah, this is fixed, no one can come and change it. Similarly, matters in the sunnah that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded us to do, these are all fixed matters. However, there are matters that are not tawqifi, and these are involved mostly in mu'amalat, in transactions, in dealings, for example, buying and selling a house, customs, the way we dress, our clothing, etc. This is flexible and it's according to the time, the place, the particular country. All of these matters, the sharia is flexible and welcomes it, so long as it doesn't go against a particular text that prohibits this action, then it is permissible. And in Sharia, we have a principle that in these matters, the original ruling is it is mubah, permissible, except if there is a clear evidence from the Quran or the Sunnah that prohibits this action. So in terms of worldly matters, we call them wasa'il, means and modes. For example, cars, these are wasa'il. I can use a car to travel and to do good deeds. I can use a plane so I can perform Hajj. I can use the camera so I can give da'wah. So these wasa'il, the scholars, they say, مَا لَا يَتِمُّ الْوَاجِبْ إِلَّا بِهِ فَهُوَ وَاجِبْ. And they say other things such as whatever is a means to fulfill a obligation or a wajib, this means can become wajib.
Okay.
These means can become wajib, such as what we mentioned in terms of transport and media, etc. They sometimes help or empower this da'wah, or it helps you do a particular ibadah. These are all permissible in our religion.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much. Huda TV has a drone, not that kind of drone, but a drone which has a phone on it.
Okay.
And we are filming. This is live right now. You can see the Jamarat.
SubhanAllah.
You can see the people there. If anybody would like to add comments or experiences, feel free to speak.
It's just a major change in the past 15 years or so.
Yeah.
I mean, this is almost as big as an airport terminal.
SubhanAllah.
I mean, in previous years, there
You
was
can see
just...
the contrast of the mountains
Yeah.
and then the modern buildings, can't you?
Yeah, subhanAllah. They've done a great
Okay.
job, really, wallahi, concerning the Jamarat for the safety of people.
MashaAllah.
It's way more organized, mashallah, compared to the stories that we hear from our parents or from the generation before us. It's been very good, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah, very nice. So dear viewers, you got to see live footage from our drone there. So feel free also to pick up your phone and give us comments on our program, what you just saw, anything you would like. Our live stream program is also running, so give us comments on that also. Okay, so mashallah, you talked about innovations, and we talked about innovation in the worldly matter, and I like how you brought some of the principles of the Sharia as well. So am I fair to conclude to say then that in worldly matters, you call them wasa'il, in worldly matters, Islam actually encourages people, and at times it's an obligation for us to actually be innovative?
Yes, absolutely. If there's no other means for me to go to Mecca except through a plane, then going on a plane could become wajib. If there's no way for me to wake up for Salat al-Fajr, except if I sleep early, and I know if I sleep late, I'm not going to wake up for Fajr, it could be wajib upon me to sleep early so I can pray Fajr on time. If this means is going to make your wajib in danger or not fulfill a wajib, then we shouldn't take that means.
Okay, all right, excellent, very nice. Dr. Jamal, one of the shortest hadith or teachings of the Prophet ﷺ we find in the Quran is when a man came to him and asked him for advice, and he said, don't get angry. He said that 3 times to him. Is anger one of the weapons of shaitan?
Oh, one of the biggest weapons of shaitan. In fact, especially being in a Western environment, you'll see this a lot of times. In Muslim circles and that, you'll even see domestic abuse and stuff that happens. And all of this comes from them not being patient and becoming angry. So shaitan comes in between that, and then it comes to a point where a husband might strike his wife.
Okay.
And this happens, and shaitan uses this anger to go ahead and make division in between people. And one of the interesting thing is look at the interaction between Iblis, Adam, and Allah.
Okay.
When Iblis was ordered to bow down to Adam, Allah actually ordered all of the angels. Was Iblis an angel? No.
No.
Instead of saying, Allah, I didn't bow down to Adam because I'm not an angel, you asked the angels to bow down, what did he do? He became arrogant, and he became filled with pride, and he looked at the substance what Adam was created, and he looked at the substance what he was made of, and he said, I'm better than him.
Okay.
So this arrogance and pride went in there. So what happened is when Allah said, get down, you despised and wretched thing, what did he do? He asked Allah dua. He said, oh Allah, give me respite till the day of judgment.
SubhanAllah.
What does Allah do? Grants his dua. Your dua is granted. So what do you do? Out of anger, what does he say? Since you did me wrong, He blamed Allah out of anger. He blamed Allah for being led astray. Okay? He said, I'm going to lie in wait for the children of Adam and I'll lead them all astray. And Allah says, you will not lead astray those that rely on me. Interesting, that concept of the anger part. And you'll see he'll use this term, this tool of anger to cause discourse between, like, for example, two business partners. Okay? They might be upset about something dealing with money, right? And you'll see them, they might strike each other, they might sue each other in court. I mean, you'll see all of this different action that happens out of anger instead of having sabr, having patience in dealing with these matters.
Sure.
Because the opposite of anger is sabr.
Sure.
So it's interesting.
All right, we'll talk about anger further in just a moment.
Inshallah.
But before we do that, we've got a report. So dear viewers, let's move over to a short report we've filmed over the last few days. Let's watch this together, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion talking about anger and other weapons of shaitan.
The Grand Mosque. It is made of pure natural silk. Its threads are golden and silver. Its walls are ornamented with Quranic verses and Islamic decorations. The process of manufacturing takes several months and almost 200 skilled professionals. It is the kiswa of the Honorable Kaaba, the spectacular black garment that enshrouds the four walls of this ancient house. It is changed once a year by the specialized professionals on the morning of the 9th day of Dhul Hijjah, amidst special ceremonial rituals. Some of the best designers and professionals in the Islamic world participate in designing and weaving this unique piece of artwork. The finest and highest quality raw materials from around the world are used in the production of the kiswa to adorn the Kaaba in the finest image that attracts the hearts of the believers. The kiswa factory is made up of 7 sections as follows: dyeing, the laboratory, weaving, printing, embroidery and sewing. It is equipped with the latest equipment and technologies and is woven according to the highest international standards and specifications. The kiswa costs about 20 million Saudi riyals to produce. The history of the kiswa dates back to the pre-Islamic era, and this tradition has continued throughout the various Islamic periods until today. The kiswa used to be sent from Egypt to Mecca for centuries, but in 1962 the kiswa was made in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. After Hajj, the old kiswa is cut into small pieces and distributed to prominent figures and organizations. These small pieces of the old kiswa are considered priceless.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers. After watching that very short report, you got to see the Kaaba, you got to see how the material there is made and how it's put on top of the Kaaba as well. So welcome back, and let's continue with our discussion. Before we go over to the speakers, I want to also make mention of some of the comments we're getting through Facebook. We have a comment from Marhaba, and she says, Assalamu alaikum, all the way from Manchester, UK, mashallah. We have Saud Dajama, and he says, Assalamu alaikum from Stockholm. We have Tala Shantan, and she says, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless all of you guys. And fourth and final comment, we have Wardiya Muhammad, and she says, Assalamu alaikum, all the way from South Africa. Subhanallah. We are Stockholm, Manchester, Nigeria, South Africa. It's almost like another Hajj.
Almost.
Yeah.
MashaAllah.
So mashallah. So coming back to the concept of anger, okay, very briefly, the dangers of anger, like you said, it breaks up relationships, it breaks up people. How does shaitan also exploit that and make you do things out of character?
MashaAllah. Do you know, it was actually sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that whenever he would get angry, he would perform two rakat of sunnah. It's interesting because this concept, like most of the time when you get angry in that, you don't have wudu. This is an interesting concept.
Okay.
Because wudu extinguishes shaitan.
I'll have to check next time.
Go make, yeah, when you get angry next time, make sure you see if you have wudu. MashaAllah. So, but a simple practice, go make wudu. It puts out the fire of shaitan, which is the anger.
SubhanAllah.
Pray 2 rak'ah sunnah, you're no longer angry. I used to do this all of the time, and it's funny. My wife would say, "Why are you praying every time you get angry?" I said, "Because when you pray when you're angry, you see a right again. Allah says when shaitan assaults you, the believer remembers Allah, he sees a right again. So
Okay.
this is a way. You're reconnecting back to Allah to go ahead and push shaitan away. So this is a great tool for our viewers at home, inshallah.
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Dear viewers, I would just like to also remind the viewers about the phone lines. They're open. Also, we did advertise, put up on Facebook and on Huda TV that we would have Sheikh Muhammad Salah here in the studio to answer your questions and to give his perspective on the questions as well. But unfortunately, he is not feeling well. He has a pain in his leg and he was unable to make it, so we do sincerely apologize for not having him here, even though we did promise that. We ask all of you to pray for him and ask Allah to cure his pain, to cure his leg, and inshallah next time you will see him on the program. Sheikh Wasim, if I can turn to yourself now. I understand that in the UK you arbitrate between people and people may have problems and so on and so forth. Would you agree with the fact that anger, one of the weapons of shaitan, causes divorce, split in marriages, split between relations, brothers and sisters? Is it a key component of shaitan's weaponry?
Yeah. You know what's... it's a very simple hadith that you mentioned where the Prophet ﷺ said to the individual, "La taghdab," don't become angry. But the Prophet ﷺ, when advising different companions, because he was a companion radiallahu anhu, who wanted the advice, the Prophet ﷺ would give different advices to different people. And if you look closely to the hadith, this individual said, "I want advice," and the Prophet ﷺ said, "Don't get angry." And then he asked again, "Advise me." He said, "Don't get angry." And then, "Advise me." The Prophet said, "Don't get angry." It's almost his testing. Is this individual, if you like, is he going to get angry?
Did he get angry?
Not as far as we know. Not as far as we know. But it was like an immediate test for the individual about the issue of anger. And secondly, if you think about the reality of anger, and why as the Muslims should try to control ourselves, is that just as alcohol is prohibited in our deen, okay, it is prohibited for a number of reasons, because it is something which is harmful to our bodies and whatnot, but also we lose our minds.
Okay.
And when we lose our mind, we tend to do things which we don't have control over. Anger is something which is, of course, not necessarily like alcohol, but can have a person can have a similar state. That if they lose their mind, they've become so angry, it is like they become a different person. So they can say things and do things, and then you remind them later that you said this and you did that, and they say, "I don't remember saying that, and I don't remember doing that." For this reason, you find that in the books of the jurisprudence scholars, they would say that a person who had reached a state of anger where that they had completely lost their mind, and he said out of such anger in this mind, and in this state, that he divorced his wife. Many of the scholars said that this type of divorce, it would not count, because he had lost his mind. He is equivalent like to the drunk person.
SubhanAllah.
And this is a general ruling. Of course, if a particular couple have gone through a particular situation like this, they should go to a scholar to find a proper ruling. Okay, I'm not giving one ruling that's applicable to all. No. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best.
Okay, we have a phone call. We have brother Osama calling us from New Zealand. SubhanAllah. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah. I'm actually calling from the Netherlands, not New Zealand.
Okay,
But
Netherlands.
Anyway, no problem. I
Not
have
too
a
far away.
question about, because one of the scholars mentioned something about Tawheed and Shirk. So I have a question about that. I heard from some brothers here in the Netherlands that they said that there are two rulings concerning classifying someone a kafir or a Muslim. They said that in an Islamic country, you give people the benefit of the doubt and you say that the majority of the people are Muslims. Whereas in a non-Islamic country, you say that the majority of the people are kuffar because of the many shirk acts that can be performed here and that people do perform. And so you cannot take someone's testimony until you talk to the person and come to find out whether his belief in Tawheed is correct and whether he has the correct aqidah.
And I also heard from a talk of Sheikh Al-Albani rahimahullah, in which he said that we cannot take the testimony of people who say, أنا رجل صالح, I'm a righteous person. We cannot take that until we have talked to the person and we came to find out that this person is truly a righteous person because he has the correct understanding of Tawheed and correct understanding of Aqidah. So I just would like to ask you, is this true? Are we supposed to first verify someone's beliefs before we assume that he is a Muslim, even though he looks like a Muslim, he has a beard, he has a izar, he prays, etc.?
Okay, Brother Osama, thank you very much for your phone call all the way from the Netherlands. Inshallah, we will come to that question slightly later in the program, so do stay tuned. I want to also thank other viewers here on our live, Facebook Live. We've got people now commenting. Kamila Shamdan, she says, I am watching from Sri Lanka and I'm enjoying your live coverage. Thank you very much, Sister Kamila. We have Sister Sarah Suja Sheikh, and she says, I'm also enjoying your program all the way from New York. SubhanAllah, today it's a miracle. We have people, Netherlands, New York, Sri Lanka. It's like Huda TV has nearly conquered the world. SubhanAllah. Isn't this the Sheikh, the essence of da'wah? You know, as speakers and as a presenter, you know, I always ask myself that you could be sitting and you could be saying a simple word, and is that one word that could travel across the globe and it could impact on someone's life? You know, how should we present ourselves as du'at, as scholars, when we are talking?
Yeah. So this reminds me actually with bil munasaba, the fact that we are performing Hajj at the moment. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded Ibrahim alayhi salam, mu'adhin fi nasi bil Hajj, to deliver the message of Hajj to mankind, that Ibrahim alayhi salam, he said that my voice will only reach maybe as far as the mountain. I mean, how is the whole earth going to know how to perform the pilgrimage? And Allah informed him that what is upon you is just to do what you need to do as a human being, and that the rest is up to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
SubhanAllah.
And also secondly, that this also is as a proof that this religion of Al-Islam is not a religion for any one country. It is not for any one people, that it is for the whole of mankind, regardless of your background, your language, no matter what. That Islam is a universal religion, and that the Quran is a universal message. Yes, it was revealed in Arabic, but by the grace of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that there isn't a place on earth that people know about Islam and know about Muslims. Even when people hear about Islam in a negative way, somehow, subhanallah, somehow people end up embracing Islam. It's like those people who have maybe a grudge against Islam, for whatever reason, and they maybe want to put Islam in a bad light. And this, more often than not, subhanallah, has the complete opposite effect.
It's almost like, I just put it into real, so it's almost like Donald Trump is doing da'wah for us in the States.
Possible. I mean, Jamaluddin would be a better witness than I, although I heard these stories after the 9/11
of course
incident in New York, that the Quran, everybody just started to buy the Quran, and how many Muslims that upon embracing Islam was because of they heard about what happened in 9/11, and quote unquote the Muslims, they did this and they did that, and they thought, well, actually, what's going on here? What do these Muslims believe? And so many quotations and quotes are saying that the Muslims believe in this and they believe in that and they do this and that and the other. Is this really what their book says? Because my neighbor's one, maybe I'm worried. So he buys the Quran, or she buys the Quran and says, wait a minute, this is a book of peace, this is a book of revelation, this is something which confirms the message that I didn't know that it confirms about Jesus alayhi salam and Abraham and David and Jonah and all of these prophets. So, alhamdulillah, it is very beautiful to hear. It raises the iman to hear people calling from all over the world, wanting to share this beautiful message of Islam, alhamdulillah.
Okay, Jazakallah, thank you. Sheikh Omar, once again, looking at these phone calls and these messages come from around the world, really making me happy. It's a word that is impacting these people's life. The Prophet ﷺ said to us that it's a word that will take you into Jannah, or it's a word that will take you into hellfire. How careful should we be with our words, and at the same time our akhlaq? How after these days, how should we really take care of our manners and our akhlaq?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, وَقُولُوا لِلنَّاسِ حُسْنًا. Say to people, not just Muslims, all types of people, good words. So the Muslim in particular, the believer, he should always be saying polite words, nice words, good words to people. And also akhlaq, character. When we look at all of the prophets, Allah chose them, but before He chose them, they were the best out of mankind. They had the best characters and the best manners. Then came their call. They used to call people to Tawheed, to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as one. If they had bad manners and bad characteristics, Allahu a'lam if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have chosen those prophets for this noble task or this message. So akhlaq is first. Having a good, noble character that represents our Islamic teachings, that comes hand in hand with the da'wah that you're calling to.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense if someone is calling to Tawheed and calling to the truth, but his characteristics are bad. People might think what he's calling to is also bad. So he has to represent what he is preaching by representing or implementing and practicing good manners and characteristics.
Excellent, thank you very much. We're going to move over to another report that we've prepared about Mecca and the things that are going on behind us. So dear viewers, let's watch this report together, and then when we come back we'll continue with our discussion. So we'll see you in a few moments.
Different skin colors, cultures, and languages converge and gather in one place and for one goal, in a smooth and orderly movement that is characterized by reverence and tranquility. They have come from all over the world to answer the call of Allah Almighty. They are the pilgrims of the house of Allah, the guests of the Most Compassionate. Serving them is an honor for all, with a person's only desire to seek the pleasure and reward from Allah Almighty alone. This is even more nobler during the days of Hajj and in Mecca. Through the lens of Huda, pictures were taken that were more powerful than thousands and thousands of words. These pictures are used to give the best example of the care and focus that the pilgrims receive as they perform the rites of Hajj.
Wallahi, the way they have organized this and the way the Saudi government are all, they've set everything up to security, to facilitating all the Hajjis. No other place, I don't think, can accommodate 6 million, 5 million people like this. No chance.
We see the security men spraying pilgrims with cold water to cool their hot bodies from exhaustion. Then there are others carrying elderly people as they throw the pebbles at the Jamarat. There are also security men deployed in all locations to guide, assist, and help the pilgrims. The desire to serve the pilgrims is not limited to the security men of the kingdom alone, but also includes the individual and volunteer organizations who have devoted all their efforts and capabilities to facilitating the easy movement for the guests of the Most Compassionate within the sacred sites, and assisting them to overcome all difficulties, either by providing them with refreshments, meals, or by spraying them with cold water and pushing the wheelchairs of the elderly.
Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, after watching that beautiful, touching report about the events that are taking place these days. I want to get the perspective of all our speakers here on what we've just saw. I want to start with yourself, Brother Jamal. SubhanAllah, which one of those topics do we touch on? First, let's look at the way people are sprinkling water. As you're walking past, you're walking to do the Jamarat or whatever, and you just get like a gush of water hitting your face. Why do people do that?
It's the most amazing thing. The amazing part is not just the military officers that are there that are spraying the water, but it's the actual Muslims that are actually bringing extra bottles of water and helping out and spraying them on people. You got people that are carrying around extra fans and tissues and stuff like that are helping one another in performing Hajj. That's the beautiful part of it. And it doesn't matter which country you're from. I mean, everybody's helping out each other, trying to finish the rites of Hajj. And that's one of the most beautiful things about Hajj. And this is something that has become more and more profound in the recent years. And I pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that it keeps on going, because all you see here is rahmah. You see mercy. You see brothers and sisters that are having mercy for one another.
Okay.
You're seeing women that are climbing up mountains trying to read, and people are trying to help them down so they don't fall down. It's the most amazing thing I've ever seen.
SubhanAllah. Sheikh Wasim, we are coming towards the end of the program, but I want to get a question in for you guys before we conclude. I saw the other day an elder lady in a wheelchair. and there was 3 guys around her, and they clearly looked like a mother and 3 brothers.
Yeah.
And they were fighting over who's going to push the wheelchair up the mountain. SubhanAllah, scenes like this really move your heart and show you that Islam is the truth and it's the solution for us.
No. The Prophet ﷺ said in a hadith, Ar-Rahimun yarhamuhumullah, that those people who are merciful, Allah Azza wa Jal has mercy upon them. Man la yarham la yurham. That whoever does not show mercy to others will not receive any mercy. And throughout the years that I've been coming here, alhamdulillah, performing Hajj, particularly Hajj, that I can honestly say that the mercy and the love that is between the Hujjaj and those who are overlooking the authorities is something I've never seen before.
Okay.
We were walking up a very, very steep hill. It's called Shara Sidqi. It takes you all up to Mina. It's a very steep hill. And we were pushing one of the elders in the wheelchair. There were a group of, I think there were 3 Saudi brothers. They said, let us push for you. He said, Jazakallah khair. No. He took, he pulls his clothes up to his waist, ties it around, and they ran to the top of the hill. And they took turns.
SubhanAllah.
And they took turns. And it was, mashallah, it's very steep. So these things, maybe they used to happen,
Yeah.
but maybe we didn't see it. But now it's clearly visible. Everybody's doing it, mashallah, tabarakallah.
All right, excellent. Sheikh Omar, we saw an image here, we saw the Kaaba and we saw these different colored umbrellas. And it looks like, this picture is going viral on Facebook, social media. It looks like there are flowers growing around the Kaaba. Can I get your perspective on that picture, if you don't mind?
I think it's a nice piece of art.
Symbolic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's like new souls, new
Diversity, isn't it?
new lives being
diversity.
re-energized.
SubhanAllah.
I think it's a beautiful scene, subhanAllah, I think myself.
SubhanAllah.
No.
All right, we are coming towards the end of the program, and as always, I like to conclude by getting a bit of advice from each of the speakers to the Ummah, because your voice is going out to all corners of the globe. Brother Jamal, in 10 seconds, what would you say to the Ummah at this point here, being the last program, the Call of Abraham? Address the Ummah, please.
My best piece of advice I can give is if you're not here in Hajj this year, make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right now. Ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to find a way to facilitate Hajj for you. Come to the place where your brothers and sisters come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and truly it is a life-changing experience, and you'll go back and be able to help others. And that's my advice to them.
Excellent. So
Inshallah.
going for Hajj. Sheikh Wasim, what's your advice to the Ummah?
I would say that there are a number of negatives, scenes around the world which make our hearts very sad. The brothers and sisters from Rohingya, may Allah Azza wa Jalla make it easy for them and all the Muslims around the world. But coming to Hajj, you see that there was a lot of khair, there was a lot of barakah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in the ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And many of us are asking, when is it going to improve? Inshallah ta'ala, the situation for them will improve, inshallah ta'ala, very soon. Bi-idhnillah.
Optimism. I like it. Jazakallah khair. Sheikh Omar, what's your message to the Ummah?
I would say coming here to Hajj and you see the diversity, you start loving the Muslims. And our iman is not complete until we love one another. So let's see every single Muslim that we know as our own brother, every single Muslim as our own sister. Love is my main message. Love every single Muslim that you know. And this is when, inshallah, victory will come and the iman will increase, inshallah ta'ala.
Excellent, mashallah. So we had Hajj, we had optimism, and we concluded with love. Mashallah, very nice. So on that note, we are going to conclude the program. Love,
mashallah.
Optimism, and then do Hajj.
Yes, mashallah.
So I'd like to conclude and thank all of you for coming, giving us your time and your knowledge, and collectively I'd like to conclude and say Assalamu alaikum. So dear viewers, we've come to the end of our program, not just our program, but to the series of the Call of Abraham. I feel sad saying this because it's the last program, but at the same time, I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving me the opportunity, the blessed opportunity to sit here and present to these programs. Not just that, but I thank Allah also for giving the opportunity for Hajj. I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving the opportunity to meet new guests every single day of the week and get to hear their perspectives, get to hear their insights. And I thank all of you who tuned in. Wallahi, we wouldn't be here, we wouldn't make it if it wasn't for your support, your advice, and you continually commenting on our programs. We thank all of those who work behind the cameras. You only see me and the guests here, but I swear to you, there are many people running around behind these cameras. There are people sitting behind desks. There are people on WhatsApp groups telling us what to do, and you know who you are. We thank all of you, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept it from every single person. I conclude with my Hajj message, and it's twofold. Number one, I emphasize the importance of unity. Wallahi, brothers, we have one Quran, we have one Qibla, we were going around it, we have one Risala, we have one final Prophet, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yet we differ so much. Why do we differ? Why do we cause disunity, cause weakness amongst ourselves? Let's stand together, just the way we do tawaf. If we collectively work, subhanAllah, imagine the way we would be. Let's work together. And finally, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to cure all those people who are ill, who are suffering from some kind of illness or something. We ask Allah to cure them. Finally, my final note, I thank all of you for tuning in. We will see you next year, hopefully at the same time, at the same place. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.